Chapter 5. Sore eyes from looking, searching, scrutinizing the teeming Cairo streets. The autumn clouds sailing from Alexandria are dispersed long before arriving in Cairo, but the memories of his hometown linger on. The hotel lounge has now become a torture chamber since her return. How often you've watched her sitting next to the old man, her husband, her eyes sparkling with promise and desire. How many times did you attempt, but in vain? Ilham was lost in a dark corner of his mind, enveloped in his all consuming fire of desire for this woman. The lounge atmosphere, cigarettes, coffee, small talk would occasionally draw him away from his madly passionate thoughts. Maybe these people are also searching for a hope. Lost in thought, he was abruptly aroused by the doorman, Muhammad Al Sawi. Mr. Sabir? Telephone. At last. Was it? Hello? Are you the person mentioned in the advertisement? Breathlessly he answered, Yes. Who's calling? Sayyid Al Rahimi? Yes. Is it your photograph? Yes. He was finding it increasingly difficult to breathe. Where can I meet you? He almost whispered. Why are you looking for me? Let's wait and see. Let's wait until we meet. Just give me an idea. I can't over the phone. There's no harm in waiting till we meet. Can you at least tell me who you are? My name is in the advertisement. What do you do? Nothing. I've got private means. Why do you want me? I'll tell you when we meet, anytime, at your convenience. A brief silence at the other end. Come now, Villa 14, Talbana Street in Shubra. No one in the hotel had heard of this street. Go to Shubra and inquire, suggested Muhammad Al Sawi. He went to Shubra. No Talbana Street. It didn't exist. It never had. Perhaps he had heard wrong. Perhaps he was being fooled. The woman sitting next to her husband added to his dark mood, driving him almost to a bloodthirsty passion. Someone had rung several times in his absence. Hope surged again. Were you successful? Asked Mr. Khalil. Almost, he replied, trying to sound cheerful. He walked to the lounge, glancing quickly at the woman. The light had just been switched on, adding a gloomy touch to the atmosphere, which lent itself to his mood. The telephone rang. Hello? Sabir? I waited all day, the voice said accusingly. I didn't find the street. Did you really look for it? All day. Talbana, number 14. What an ass you are. A wicked laugh, and the line went dead. The bastard. Back where I started, without hope. He left the hotel and walked into a nearby restaurant, ordered a brandy and a fish dinner. A useless day. Might as well end it on a full stomach. He had several drinks, ignoring the cost, just like the old days. Days of wine and roses, literally you might say, but this city has nothing but heartache and despair to offer. Every passing hour brings nearer a frightening end. What comes after waiting and searching in the dark? He would be the laughing stock of Alexandria. His fists, the only language he used, would now be turned against him. What did he have to look forward to? A life of crime and not hope, and inevitably punishment. The woman crept back into his thoughts, the raging fire and Ilham, the gentle breeze. But of what use was all this before he found his father? He left the restaurant and walked through the arcaded street. Passion was the only emotion driving him after his day's failure. A mad passion, just like the night of the chase. He remembered his mother, smoking her nargila and ruling the desires of men. Beware how you spend, my son. Poverty is the real enemy. Love many, but never be dominated by one. Love, money, nightclubs, pleasure, women. But where is Sayyid al Rahimi? Rahimi! A cry in the wilderness. The brandy stimulated his imagination. That woman dominated his thoughts. Momentarily, he conjured up images of wild seduction. He returned to the hotel. It was past midnight and everyone had retired. He lit a cigarette in his ancient room. More thoughts of the woman, then sleep. He was awakened by a sound. Opening his eyes in the dark, he heard a gentle tapping on his door. He sat up unbelievingly. Could it be? The tapping again. He got out of bed and slowly opened the door. It was barely open when a figure rushed in, closing it again quickly. You! She looked around her as though trying to recognize the surroundings. Where am I? I'm sorry. I seem. She gathered her dressing gown around her, covering her almost visible breasts. She was smiling. He pulled her toward him savagely with all the fury and frustration that had been building up in him. I have been waiting 100 years. He pulled her toward the bed and turned the lights off. I don't even know your name. Karima. Very, he murmured. The only sounds were those of two creatures locked in passion, longing and lust. Love in the dark as he'd always known it. The dream was being realized in a whirlpool of passion, occasionally but only imperceptibly, cooled by disbelief. The smell of the sea breeze once again, memories rushing in, but being pushed into the background by passion and lust, the roar of the sea accompanying their violent lovemaking, deep breathing, sighs, then calm reigns. Light me a cigarette, please. I didn't think you smoked. Only occasionally. The match lit up her naked body, but she quickly blew it out. The smell of phosphorus blended with that of love. Why have you fought me all these days? I never fight. I do nothing. I expressed my feelings about you from the very first. She laughed softly and said, When I saw you 10 days ago, I said to myself, this is it. Triumphantly, he cried out, Alexandria? No, I don't mean that. I said this is the man I've been waiting for. What about Alexandria? What about it? Really? Come off it. Why should I lie to you? Strange that there could be two of you, identical. Let's not waste time. How did you manage to come to my room? He took his sleeping pills. All his troubles and worries converge on him in the evening. You have disappointed me. I told myself if you were the girl from Alexandria, then it was a good omen for my search. You mean your father? Yes. What's your real story? I always thought he was dead. Then I was told otherwise. That's all there is to my story. Maybe you're looking for money? That doesn't matter now. Promise me you'll come here every night. Whenever I can. He kissed her in a passionate embrace which inevitably led to more lovemaking. Whenever I feel like it, she said breathlessly when they had spent to themselves. He lay on her breasts, pleasantly exhausted. Don't deny Alexandria. You are obsessed by an image. Take care that your search is not just a mere fantasy. I wish it were, then I could rest, he said sadly. You really do have worries, more than I thought. Yes, but now my main concern is to stay here as long as possible. What's to stop you? He thought for a while, then said, If my money runs out before I find my father, I'll have to go back to Alexandria. And when would you return? I must look for a job. She caressed his hand. No, she said gently but firmly. He suddenly became aware of the trend the conversation was taking. She asked, Why don't you look for a job here? Impossible. You're very mysterious, but let me tell you that money is not a problem. His heart missed a beat. You must be a millionairess. The hotel, the money, they're all in my name. And your husband? Is he merely an employee? No, as long as he's alive, he runs the show. But that doesn't concern me. He felt himself blushing at the sly innuendo. Well, let's hope you find your father. That is a much better solution. Yes, that is very important. But from now on, my main concern will be to wait for you. He tried to embrace her, but she slipped out of bed. Dawn is breaking. I've got to go. He returned to his bed. The rumpled sheets and the memory of her embrace were evidence that it had all happened. He felt that now he could do without his father. The telephone rang. Hello? A serious voice said, Is this Sabir Sayyid of the advertisement? Yes. I am Sayyid Al-Rahimi. What do you want? I must meet you. I'm waiting for you at the Wojtrekoin cafe near the newspaper. I'll be there in a few minutes. Looking around the cafe, he saw a man sitting at the table usually occupied by Ilham. Without a doubt, it was he. He hadn't changed in 30 years. Some white hairs and a few lines on his face, nothing more. He moved toward him, and a new fear gripped him. The man felt him approach and stood up. Mr. Sabir? Yes, and you are the man in the photograph. The man sat down. You are a very young man. I have a feeling that I've seen you somewhere before. Where, I wonder? I'm from Alexandria and I'm staying at the Cairo Hotel. All day I walk the streets. I've come here several times, at this very table. Maybe I saw you on one of the streets. I too go to Alexandria occasionally. I also come here from time to time. When did you see the advertisement? The very first day. Really? Well, why didn't you contact me? Your advertisement indicated that you had failed to find me by other means, but I am well known, and it's not difficult to find me. I decided to contact you when I noticed your persistent advertising. But that's very strange. No one I met had ever heard of you. Never mind about that now. Tell me what it is you want. I want you. But don't you notice anything? Sabir looked intently into the man's face, hoping to find a glimmer of recognition. There was no sign of it on the man's face. Look at my face, he said, almost shouting. What's wrong with it? Asked the man. Suddenly a soft voice called out, Sabir. He turned to find Ilham. He got up to introduce her to his father when suddenly, to his surprise, the man rose and said, Ilham, how are you? To his utter amazement, the girl kissed the man's forehead. You know him? The man looked astonished. When did you meet my daughter? Your daughter? Oh my God. Before anyone could stop her, Ilham rushed out of the cafe. Rahimi sat down in his calm voice said, Now tell me what it is you want. Shaking, Sabir sat down. Automatically he took the photograph, his birth certificate and the marriage certificate. The man looked at each document calmly, placed them in a neat pile on the table, and just as calmly tore them to pieces. Sabir jumped up and grabbed the man by his jacket, screaming, You are denying my existence. Get away from me. Don't ever let me see your face again. You're good for nothing, just like your mother. I've got nothing to do with you. He pushed him violently. Sabir staggered back, fell, and banged his head on the lunch counter. He woke up in a cold sweat, breathing heavily. He was in his hotel room, naked under the bedclothes. The sun was seeping through the shuttered window. The search, was it a dreamlike hope, a fantasy, as Krima suggested? He would have many more dreams like this one. Chapter 6. Every night the dreams haunt him. He wakes up tired and depressed, a silence continuously surrounding him, a deepening grave-like silence, similar to a wave before it rolls and breaks. What then? Another wave follows. His father appears in every dream, but the search is no longer the main aim of his life. Rather, it is the snatched moments of love in the dark, savage, passionate with an animal desire. Darkness brings back the memories of his early youth when he was almost fatally ill. He had panicked when he met death face to face. It was this panic that became his driving force, that drove him to a life of violence, swimming, maybe drowning in a sea of sin, lust, and pleasure, continuously having to use his fists to defend his mother's fictitious honor. He went to the newspaper offices and was greeted by Ilham's calm smile. How refreshing she looks, a rock in his stormy sea. Any news? She asked. I've come to renew the advertisement, even though I doubt it will be of much use. Have you thought of any other method? He smiled. Little does she know that the search was now of secondary importance in his life. We've got a surprise for you, said Tantawi. He sat down, his curiosity aroused. A woman inquired about you. A woman? She asked about the advertisement. Who was she? She didn't say anything, she just asked about the advertisement. Maybe she knows of him. Rahimi, I mean, Sabir said, hopefully. Maybe, and maybe. What's the other maybe? She might know you. Or maybe someone's playing a trick. It happened before, he said bitterly. Could she be his wife? His widow? Maybe it was Karima. Just curious. That woman was a volatile mixture of passions and emotions, cunning and destruction. Sabir and Ilham sat at their usual table in the neighboring cafe. He remembered his strange dream. You don't seem as enthusiastic as before, she remarked. If you only knew the real reason. It's better this way, he said. I must not raise my hopes too high. Yes, she agreed. Let time be your ally in this search. Please let me buy you lunch, at least once. You are the guest, not I. They ate in silence. He noticed 1,000 questions going through her mind, mirrored in her eyes. He thought of the previous night. How strange to be two people at the same time, divided between two women, one a raging fire, the other a gentle spring breeze. Are you taking a holiday to carry out your search? She's probing now. He felt slightly uncomfortable. I'm not employed in the real sense of the word. I have private means. Land? My father owns some property. He could see that she wasn't convinced. I run his properties for him. Believe me, that's harder than holding down any job. The second lie, how he hated lying to her. Well, as long as you've got something to do. Idleness is man's worst enemy. That's very true. These past 2 weeks have proved it. But what do you know about idleness? I can imagine it. Anyway, I've read about it. You have to try it to really understand, he said bitterly. That's true. It's difficult for someone your age to have experienced enough, at least the way I have. If you think I'm still a child, you'd better think again. How delightful she is. I think I love her. He mustered more courage and said, You know everything about me. Now tell me something about yourself. What do I know about you? You know my name, what I do, why I'm here, and also how fond I am of you. She smiled. Don't mix fact with fiction. That is the only fact, he told himself. A dark cloud hid the sun momentarily and plunged the cafe in a deep gloom. Well, I know your name and job, he said. What more do you want to know? When did you start working? 3 years ago, when I graduated. I'm still studying, though. Higher studies, you know. Thank God she doesn't ask about my qualifications. She's too tactful for that. You are living Giza? I live with my mother. Our family is in Qaliyub. My uncle lives in Heliopolis. We also have someone missing from the family. Who? He asked, surprised. My father, she said, trying to hide a smile. How incredible! He remembered his dream. Lost fathers are plentiful, it seems. Maybe they're looking for the same one. How did you lose your father? Not like your brother. Don't you think I'm giving away too much? He looked at her reproachfully and yet curiously. Actually, my parents separated when I was just a baby, she continued. He abandoned you? She laughed loudly, making him aware of his mounting curiosity. I mean, he disappeared? He added hastily. He's a well-known lawyer in Asyut. Maybe you've heard of him. Ammar Zayyid. He immediately relaxed. I thought you were going to say Sayyid al-Rahimi. Would you have liked to be my uncle? She asked, laughing. No, he retorted firmly. She blushed. My mother, she continued, insisted on keeping me. That suited my father as he was intent on remarrying. He paid her alimony and we moved to my grandfather's house in Cairo. He died and now we live alone, my mother and I. He listened carefully but nevertheless with some skepticism. He always doubted women and especially mothers. Ilham obviously had never heard of his kind of life. Whores, pimps, bastards, and many other choice varieties. Could he give her such details as she had done? Clouds of despair and gloom hung over him. Ilham was still talking. One day my uncle said that I should meet my father. My mother was furious. He doesn't deserve it, she argued. He never once asked about you. But my uncle insisted, saying that I was growing day by day and I would definitely need a father. He murmured unthinkingly, freedom, honor, and peace of mind. She shrugged her shoulders and said, my mother insisted on my not seeing him. I agreed with her point of view that my job was more important than a father, at least more permanent. She was frightened lest he should decide to take me away from her. Oh, just listen to her talk, that delightful child. What job or career could possibly replace freedom, honor, and peace of mind? I continued my studies and applied for this job, and now I'm pursuing my higher studies at night school. Don't you ever think of your father? He asked. No, to me he does not exist. That was his choice. Because you don't need him? No, I don't need my mother either, but I love her and can't imagine my world without her. You are obviously not on the brink of despair, my girl. You don't thirst for freedom, honor, and peace of mind. You are not threatened by a tainted past that could become your future overnight. I am happy in my job even though I haven't got private means like you. She hit him where it hurt, unintentionally, of course. How he wished he could tell her all, but he did not dare. Loneliness enveloped him when she left him to go back to the office. Despite her charm and gentleness, she aroused the animal instincts in him. He imagined her shock and horror at seduction and his ensuing shame and defeat. But to him, seduction was a natural instinct. One could even say a hollow tradition. That was his defense mechanism, to destroy every possible virtue. Ilham was a shining beacon in his life, but also a threat to his ego. She shook the world he was accustomed to. He could only forget his torture in Karima's fire, the beacon lighting the other half of his newfound dual life. He walked out into the nippy November evening and strolled back to the hotel. The newly familiar sight greeted him. Khalil bent over his desk and Muhammad al-Sawi by the door. He sat in the lounge for about an hour, smoking and scanning the papers. He got up, went to the telephone and dialed. Ilham, will you meet me tomorrow in the cafe? With pleasure. Is anything wrong? No, not at all. I want to see you whenever I can.